This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
Believe it or not, the world has gotten a whole lot noisier, and many of these noises have crept into our homes and our workplaces. For home, noise levels can come from loud neighbors, barking dogs, loud appliances, lawnmowers, and kids yelling throughout the house. For work, noise levels can come from cell phones ringing and texts dinging all day, or people congregating outside of your cubicle with full-blown conversations and laughter. Who has time to concentrate and focus on mental balance when our minds have to fight against these disturbances all day? In fact, a recent workplace noise-related study showed that 68% of job seekers admitted they are listening to more than your benefits package. They are judging the noise levels in the office. This episode is about the negative impact of noise sensitivity on stress and mental wellness. Poppy Szkiler is the CEO of QuietMark, a company that is on a mission to make home and work quieter. An independent scheme, QuietMark acoustically tests products to enable consumers to easily identify quieter products for the home, workplace, and public spaces, which will benefit health and well-being. Valeria interviews Poppy Szkiler. After a short career as an actress in films and TV, Poppy Szkiler followed her grandfather's footsteps to become the founder and CEO of QuietMark. The company helps consumers and specifiers find the quietest products and building materials available. She was named the Queen of Quiet by the UK's Sunday Times newspaper, and she is a passionate campaigner for the impact of sound on well-being. Meet Poppy at quietmark.com. Here's the interview with Poppy Szkiler.
In your own words, who is Poppy Szkiler?
Well, my goodness, that's a big question. Well, currently, for the past 10 years, I am the founder and the CEO of a global certification company called QuietMark. And I'm actually a third-generation noise campaigner. My grandfather founded the Noise Abatement Society back in 1959, and he lobbied the Noise Abatement Act through Parliament in the UK. And basically, I set up QuietMark with my mother about 10 years ago to help the world find verified solutions to unwanted noise in every possible area, whether it's a product or a noise reduction solution. And we wanted to do this basically to help people find for free online products that had gone through a technical and rigorous process of assessment so that they could enjoy more peaceful lives, and the very difficult sound measurement of these products and these things could be done for them. So I've had an extraordinary journey doing that, and it's really very much become all consuming over the past decade, that's for sure.
Wow, it sounds wonderful to me, this idea that we can live in a quieter world. And you made me reflect about the noise that we make as a family, and then the neighbors' noise, and then the cars. It's interesting because we often don't think about it, right? We just navigate the world, this reality, and we accept all this as natural, as normal, but it's not really what it's supposed to be.
Well, the human being is actually only able to cope in terms of the way we're designed with about 1.5 conversations. So if someone's talking over there and you're having a conversation here, you can't hear, and we're actually extraordinarily sensitive sound boxes ourselves as human beings. So when you've nowadays got all these layers of sound, which hasn't been necessarily designed with that in mind, you're having to cope with fighting off all sorts of noises whilst trying to concentrate. And this is where the stress levels come in, or the lack of harmony, and then the irritation, then even the anger. There is a whole lot of emotional responses to too much noise that then goes into the heart and the cardiovascular system, whereas quietness and silence, it's like a healing pool. So whilst it's amazing to make loads of noise and to have, we're made to make noise in many ways, but it's also kind of reestablishing and kind of awakening to the value of what quietness and silence can be when it's slotted back in at certain times of the day, right, or with choices we make about the products we buy or how we design our homes or workplaces. So it's a huge topic.
Wow.
And we could dive into that.
I know. I love the idea. And a question that comes to me, one of the initial questions about what you do is, what was the inspiration for your grandfather to become a noise campaigner? I'm curious about that.
He was a very forward-thinking, visionary entrepreneur. And after World War II, it was a big time for booming of industry and everyone getting back on their feet again. And he just noticed that everything was getting extraordinarily loud, from the cars to the dustbin lids, in the street. There was this cacophony that was being let off with no kind of cap or understanding that it was affecting human health. So he wrote a letter actually to the Daily Telegraph, which is a bit like the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. And he said, is anyone else experiencing this? And it was published. And he received, because there was no email in those days, sackfuls of mail. And so he thought, my goodness, this is a problem that certainly needs solving. So he set about single-handedly lobbying Parliament, and noise was then established as a pollutant for the first time in the world. And then from there, he's campaigned for years. It was almost like a matching of business practicality with the heart to serve society. Was I think the initial how he got started.
It's interesting how we come up with solutions for problems that we see in our environment, and sometimes those solutions, they move forward and become this big movement, and sometimes they don't. I'm really glad your grandfather thought about that, because it's so important, because we cannot control other people. Like in the case of my environment, we live in a house in development with lots of houses, and sometimes I'm here kind of hosting this podcast, and then the neighbor decides to do the lawn. And then my husband sometimes goes there, talks to them. It goes back to the individual, right? Us becoming aware and making better choices. So how can we navigate with this challenge in mind? What do you suggest we do in this case? Talk to our neighbors?
Absolutely. There are so many things to do. So, Quiet Mark, the company itself, has found all the solutions on behalf of everybody so you can go to quietmark.com and basically find, the best windows, or, oh my goodness, I need a much quieter dishwasher or a leaf blower. And so we've done all the hard work of literally physically testing in acoustics labs all the products on the market. So in that first step, we're almost like a best friend brand to, great, Quiet Mark have tested it. So we work with Good Housekeeping Institute, measuring all of their product reviews, and you'll see the Quiet Mark in the Good Housekeeping magazine, where we've tested, all the hair dryers or all the what have you, and we've only allowed the quietest one to have the, 3 stars or what have you. So we're kind of trying to do that homework, because our lives are so busy. We haven't got time to, how on earth can we find out whether one hair dryer is quieter than another? So
yes,
we've done
true.
all that.
So true.
And then in terms of, like having a noisy neighbor, or it's a real tricky one, because, you want to keep the peace in the long-term living environment with everyone. And I think you have to build a relationship that's truly loving and, humble and sweet, and go around and say, look, I'm actually working between 7 and 11 on recordings. Would you be just an angel, and would you mind just doing the leaf blower after that time? That sort of very, leaning in, loving, and can I get your shopping for you if there's an old person, all of that love your neighbor stuff, so that there could be times we don't know we're irritating someone, so it's that's that thing of thinking of your neighbors. Even we try to just awaken people to, sometimes we're not aware of the noise we're making, you see. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize you were on a call at that time, so there's a whole combination of stuff. And it really is also in your own home about, we often say, doing a noise audit, where if you say for a week in your house, you go, okay, what are the things that are really annoying me? Like the refrigerator sounds like an alien life force, or
yeah. That's great.
I can't, the extractor fan, I can't even speak. My friends come around. It's so and if you just make a note of all those, and then you can start to work towards literally choosing to create a peaceful home by the next time you update or renew, or even when you go to look to buy another house or rent another house, you're looking for those, quiet checkboxes. And then there's all sorts of things like walls and floors and ceilings, where we have a thing called Acoustics Academy, where you can also find the best flooring and noise reduction windows that have been compared across market. So that, again, all the hard work's been done for you. But it's those practical things that make up the whole of the, experience of that environment, really.
I didn't think about that, the windows, right? Because even if we have a great relationship with our neighbors, it's kind of, it might not be a good idea to impose on them in a sense of time and all that limitation. So having windows that will block the sound, that might be the best thing to do.
Oh, if you get new windows, it can literally transform your whole life.
Right. That's a wonderful idea. And I love that I went to your website and I see that you have all the appliances or anything that we are thinking about to buy. And then we can just search and see if it is certified by your company. That's such a wonderful idea.
The other thing that's really quite key about Quiet Mark is that because we've got about 64 years of the Noise Abatement Society charity, which my grandfather founded, behind us, we're doing it to serve public health. So we're not selling any products. We don't want to. It's got a very unusual remit. So we also then journey with some of the leading brands in the world who often now come to us and say, how do we get the Quiet Mark? So we work with our R&D teams to look at their prototypes and say, I'm terribly sorry, but that horrible high-pitched squeak and that bleep, it just can't be, we're very kind, but at the same time, you can see that manufacturers are now going, okay, especially since lockdown, that people are really looking for quietness to cope with the stressful times we're in. And that reflects on what they want to buy or not. So we've got a really captive audience now with people, the people who are making things are going, okay, how do we make things quieter? So it's a good moment for that, at least.
I know, in that it is very much connected to emotional and mental health. It's interesting how we think about these things, but we don't often talk about. This is a very unique topic. I don't think I ever talked to anyone about sound in this way. We talked about sound in the healing way, healing sounds, but not how unpleasant noise can affect our mental health and well-being, and truly, truly does.
Absolutely. So basically, sound and noise, it affects our brain waves, our heartbeat, our hormone secretions, literally all of our physical rhythms are affected by noise. And what happens is, with the fight or flight that we've got mechanism in our body, originally, if a loud noise came, cortisol would shoot to the heart to make you ready to fight or survive, stay alive. But because we're getting this, particularly like in New York, you're getting this all the time. You've got beeps and bleeps and noises and bangs and crashes and layers and layers of it. What it does is it creates an overproduction of cortisol to the heart. And that's when heart disease starts, or even fatalities like a heart attack. And, people say, it was a stress related. Well, that stress comes from the buildup of noises that we aren't meant to cope with. And we think we've just got to put up with it. And actually, it's a bit like the visualization of that would be like a massive garbage heap in front of us. We wouldn't stand it. We would want it cleared, but actually the oral pollution is just as devastating. In fact, sometimes more so, because sound affects our emotions. It affects our, if I, put my fingers on a chalkboard, we'd all literally physically wince.
Yes,
or if
gosh.
we listen to the sound of the beautiful waves on a Malibu beach, you suddenly go, your body completely has a sense of release, and you can literally feel the healing even if you stop and sit on a beach for 10 minutes. So that's how much sound affects us. And I would say even more than light. And it's just invisible. And that's the thing. We can't see it.
Right. Yes, 1,000,000,000 times to that, to that effect. And it can be felt. We know that. Like from my own experience, of course, every time I hear noise, unpleasant noise, when it's really loud, it's just so uncomfortable. It affects my thinking. It's just changed the mood. It's interesting to see. But then you're also talking about layers of sounds that we are not even aware of sometimes. I had an experience recently with the microwave in my house. Right. My mother-in-law, she wakes up earlier than I do, and she was using it in the morning. And every time she touched the buttons, even her adding the minute or the seconds, it would wake me up immediately. Yeah. Isn't that amazing? It's very, very subtle. It's not even a loud sound.
Because it's the tonalities and the frequencies. And there are certain frequencies and certain tonalities that are healing. There's the whole thing of King David who had a lyre. In the Psalms, in the Bible, in the Old Testament, he would play his secret chord. Even Leonard Cohen sings of it, the secret chord that pleased the Lord, and that's what traditionally it cured King Saul's depression, because he was playing the harp, which releases harmonies and frequencies that literally lift the mental illness or the spiritual oppression. So I come from a place of starting quite much with that knowledge. I play the harp myself because when you know these things, it's like you got to do the thing. Yeah. But basically, what I don't get yet is why designers of products and some are, but there are still so many millions that aren't. Why don't we employ healing sounds in our phones, in everyday products? I mean, it could be like heaven. If you had a mobile phone that had exactly the right frequency that matches your brainwaves.
Oh my God, Poppy. That would be a wonderful idea. Yeah, to do that, not just eliminate, make it quieter, but just add some healing frequencies to the appliances. Yeah. Oh my God, you could definitely suggest that or come up with that plan. What a wonderful idea.
I've tried for about 10 years. I mean, literally, I've spoken to the heads of, I was like, why don't you make it like birdsong? Why don't you make it like, and it hasn't happened yet.
Oh, okay, so you already made the suggestion and you tried.
I've spent my whole life doing that.
Okay, and why is the resistance? Why do you think that is? It's just it's very costly to change the whole system?
Exactly. I think up until the beginning of the pandemic, it was a lesser priority. Such a massive, massive change happened to all of us, the whole of mankind. And I think we all reevaluated our values. And from that point onwards, first of all, we had an awful lot more silence, or the opposite, an awful lot more noise, because everything was under one roof. And then as a result of that, that changed the way people wanted to work. Like a lot of people from our latest survey, I think it's 68%, which is over 2/3 of Americans. And this was a recent January 2022 survey, say they would consider the noise level at work when making future employment decisions. I mean, this is pushing quietness and silence and noise right to the top of people's choices now. And I think that is what is now tipping the dial of manufacturers going, okay, we now have to invest in acoustics. It's having its kind of golden hour, hopefully that doesn't end, where people are going, okay, to get people back into the workplace, we're going to have to design this place so it's really comfortable and quiet and acoustically beautiful. Because a lot of people won't come into work anymore, and we're going to have a problem there.
I know. So they are implementing some of these ideas.
Starting.
That's wonderful. But you don't know of any product line for appliances specifically that are working on that, do you? That they are trying to implement healing sounds?
Well, not the healing sounds. Certainly, anyone listening, please, get busy doing that. I think there are some, amazing brands that are, I don't know if I'm allowed to drop name brands on your show, but sure. Like Miele, who I produced a feature film in partnership with Patrick Shen and his producing team called In Pursuit of Silence, and it did really well. It's available on Amazon. It's a feature documentary which was filmed in 13 countries, and we filmed in Germany at not just this, but one element of it was all about my area of stewardship about, product noise. And we went to Miele's factory in Germany, went to BMW's Sound Cathedral at their headquarters. We went to Dyson in the UK to their sounds. And we were looking at these very forward-thinking companies who had seriously invested in the noise and sound to make almost like that appliance or that product not even there, just so very beautiful sound. So that there are some brilliant, sensitive, sometimes more premium brands at the moment who do that. But then it's now trickling down because they know that everyone's working from home. So if you're on your Zoom, you don't want to, a dishwasher on cycle when your husband's in the next room, you can only do the Zoom call there. So I think that the quiet home is becoming what we all absolutely need to survive right now, with uncertainties of lockdowns and homeschooling and, all of these changes afoot.
Right. We have enough noise in general in our own minds a lot of times, right? We think too much. So that would really help. Oh, I love this idea, Poppy. I really do. I love what you do. And I love the idea that we can have more access to appliances that make quieter, pleasant, and perhaps even healing sounds.
Yes.
What do you feel is the purpose of the human experience?
That's a huge question. I think it's to learn how to love. That's the headline. I think every day is another love lesson, and one often fails. But then mercies are new every morning, and it's the next set of tests to try and love the best we can. And sometimes when we're out of sync and out of kilter, you can't. So when you got a lot of just swinging it back to the noise issue or sound, is that I think that one gets topped up with love and joy and peace, regardless of your circumstances, in the quietness. So one of the things I do, and I'm, sometimes you can, sometimes you really can't most days, but a bit like going to the gym, you're like, right, this is my quiet time, and I'm going to sit in silence and with my notebook, and I'm going to listen. I'm not going to, some people call it meditation, but actually I think it's more than that. It's almost like listening for the still small voice of calm, where you're like listening almost to a parent's voice, like, I'm a believer, so I'm always like, Lord, help, I cannot get through this day. You're going to have to show me what to do with this person. Please help me because I'm struggling with this, and just offer it over. So I find the whole of the journey I've had in life is bringing those questions in my quiet time for wisdom, to find wisdom. And then from that place, you think, oh gosh, I've just chatted my heart out and written some things I've heard down. But then the rest of the day, it's like you're oiled with joy, or you suddenly get the answers. It's like that investment pays off for the rest of the day. That's what I find.
Yeah. And it really does. I love the way you connected the idea of love, which is another question in itself, with being quiet, finding the silence within, which it is a very explored spiritual topic that we talk here. Yeah, I wanted to ask you two questions regarding that. Love, what is your understanding of love? What would love be from your perspective?
Wow. From what I'm learning, because I don't think you ever stop learning, is a choice. It's certainly not a feeling. I would say, you choose to love someone often who's unlovable. I'm not all, in the sense of, it's not about, oh, they're nice to me, I'll be nice to them. So I think it's a choice that you make in order to live in that stance of how can I help or bless or a person that you feel led to do so. I mean, some people you might not be led to do so, but certainly the people that come across your path, I often like, Lord, how can I help this person with what you've given me? Even when even when I don't feel like it, and I'm far from perfect. So I think it is that state of saying, right, I'm going to choose today to even that person that drives me nuts, I'm going to absolutely find the wonder in them.
I love the way you say that too just now. How can I help somebody else with what I have, what's been given to me? What, where, and who is God to you?
Well, I mean, I'm just full on in love with Jesus, but I'm not like a church going. I'm like a little girl. I just talk away, and I find that I don't want to do religion. It's not about that. For me, it's a relationship with the simple revelation. I personally believe that this extraordinary Jewish man was the Son of God and died on a cross, went down, looked the devil in the eyes, overcame, and basically overcame the laws of sin and death. And if I believe in him, I also overcome. And so that belief in this extraordinary Savior as the Son of God, and when he went to heaven, he left the Holy Spirit. And when you ask the Holy Spirit to come into your heart, my goodness, he comes in, and it ain't, you don't have to be in any outfit like a priest. You can be anywhere, anytime, and you can ask the Holy Spirit to come in, forgive me of my sins, be the Lord of my life. And whoa, the Lord he's just extraordinary. So I also see God as my Father in heaven. So I'm personally able to say, Dad, what on earth do I do about this? I need some fatherly wisdom. So I'm a really unusual believer, because I don't want to go to church every Sunday. I got a lot of questions about certain aspects. So that's why I say I'm a believer. But I think, I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure if I'm answering this how you've asked me. It's a big thing.
Yeah.
But certainly it's the wellspring of my life, and everything I do is when you've had the revelation of Almighty God, you can only serve him, or certainly, he is holy, so you just, what do you want me to do with these days of this life you've given me? How do I do best what you want me to do, and help?
Yeah, what a beautiful questions. How did this happen for you, Poppy? This realization, those revelations about God and Jesus?
I was a pretty ordinary lady. I had a massive epiphany at the age of 30. I mean, massive. There was a preacher preaching in a church, not a church, excuse me, a school. And he was, I don't know how you'd say it, like, in New York, very sort of, like he was preaching, but in like a Cockney way, like in London, very street. And I was like, he didn't have a dog collar on. He was, like a Catholic or a Anglican. He was just preaching the gospel. And I felt such love coming from his heart and everything. And I just went down and I said, well, where do I sign? And he said, my dear girl, you just have to ask the Lord into your heart and give your life to Jesus. And I did. And my whole life turned around overnight. And I'm, I started a passion then, and which the fire has never gone out of my heart for this love. I immediately was filled with love. Everything changed in my life overnight. A career path in the film industry changed overnight. And I just sat at the foot of, God, really, with the Bible for about 6 months, asking him what he wanted me to do. And it soon came that he wanted me to help my mom. I'm like, oh no, really? Really what Grandpa was doing? That's not really cool. And then we started the journey, and I realized that there's a generational thing in one's family you can't escape, and I was just like tailor-made for it, even though I'm quite loud. And I just started picking up the phone to, we started from the kitchen table, no investment, Mum and I, quite naive, no business training. And today we're working with pretty much, all the leading brands, where, everything I've shared about my faith, stuff like that is the fire. Why I do what I do is because in the quietness, there is a sense of treasure and value which has been forgotten. And so we all need to work together to quieten things so people can come into that quietness and find whatever they're going to find there. It's so personal. Yeah. But there is certainly healing in quietness, that's for sure.
That's truly beautiful, Poppy. Thank you for sharing that. I live for these things. So You gave me goosebumps many times now. So with that in mind, I have to ask you this question. At this time, what is the world's greatest need?
There's so much suffering. There's so much mental illness. There's so much disorientation and division. And I have to bring it back to all that I've shared thus far in our conversation, is that, the better job, all these things that we strive for and work hard for, and, all of these, the happiness isn't in that. Whatever, the world is going to go through a lot of changes. And the main thing is to find where your life source is going to be, regardless of those changes. And I would say, what the world needs today is to get hooked back up to the mains supply. We've been running on batteries when we're doing it in our own strength. But I've kind of already illustrated about how what I found when I had my epiphany. I literally, just like a child, sat and asked and pleaded and cried. It's not like a holy thing. I'm like, proper, passionate, asking questions to God. Help me with this relationship. Help me. I keep doing this thing. Help me stop it. Just that real pouring out your heart in the quietness. And then lo and behold, you get the answers. So therefore, the things that you were chasing don't even matter anymore, because actually you've got to the root of, so I think the world needs to get talking to God again. And not with any kind of religious, false, pretense, but heart to heart, because we're in a really tight squeeze globally. Yeah. So whoever you are, whatever, your status or your marital status, whatever, young, old, I believe that ultimately God just wants to talk to us and talk back to us to give us the wisdom to make sure that we make the right choices, or the house move, or the relationship choice, or the where do I put my money, or what do I do next? It's is the world ending soon? And he will start to talk back to you, and in that place you find the peace. That's how I live, and I will tell anyone that, because I want them to have it. Not that I'm better than anyone else, but it's where you find peace and joy and love, and it's certainly not something we can manufacture. It's almost more of a surrender. So, anyway, oh my goodness, I'm preaching.
Wow! Oh, I love the sound of that. What a wonderful message! Yeah, thank you so much, Poppy, for delivering this very important and needed message at this time. And also as a reminder, because we tend to forget. That's interesting. Your voice, your sound serves to me now as a reminder, because I know these things and I live by them. But sometimes we tend to forget. So thank you for the reminder. It's such a powerful one too.
Pleasure. And it's often a lot simpler than we all make it. This is the thing that gets me. It's so simple. Everything tries to complicate things. It's just pour out your heart, listen and wait and trust.
You're just living, not just as the messenger, but you're being the message itself, because it has been communicated. The message of being quiet so we can listen to the voice of love, to the voice of God, the voice that we have not heard yet, the voice that we are missing, the sound that we are missing to listen to. What a beautiful metaphor too. Thank you so much, Poppy. What can I ask you after this? What else can I say? It's almost stops everything.
Well, I also think, you see, I thought I was one thing. I had a career that I was worked so hard for. I was at the top of, getting to the top of my game. And then when I asked what I was made for, I asked God, what did you make me for? And then he started to say, work with your mum. I was like, no, but actually he knew best. And I really do believe that every one of us is made for a really specific thing. And it's sometimes you're off in this direction. Actually, you're better off over here, but it doesn't look like it until you get on it. And then you're like, so I don't know. I just felt if someone was listening today who's having a real head scratch on what's my purpose,
Right. Yeah.
that ask in that quiet place and it will be given to you. Yeah.
Thank you so much again for the wisdom, the heart wisdom that you delivered today. Besides the work you do, that has to do with sound and quietude. How wonderful. It's highly spiritual to me, what you do. So you know, highly spiritual.
Also very practical.
Yeah, right. I mean,
we've got to stay with our feet on the ground.
Right. And I don't separate them, Poppy. To me, spirituality and practicality and physicality, everything's one. It's connected. We cannot separate God from anything else. It is just sometimes we don't listen to the voice of God, as you say, but it's always here. It's never separated. It's never hidden. It's always here.
Yes.
Once we have been affected by the negative sounds and all, how do we recover and heal from that?
Well, it's a tricky one because we all have different types of sensitivities, or there's the more serious issues of say being on the spectrum of autism, or and all these different variations on how sound can profoundly affect the comfort or well-being of our bodies. So I would say kind of the sure place is to try and find a safe audio, almost like a safe place for yourself. It could be a park, it could be a room in your house, it could be, when I go and stay with Auntie, she's just got this beautiful garden. It could be that, in your family with, how many ever children, you could say, right, guys, it's silent time now, and we're going to listen, and we're going to create in the silence, and hear what we can hear and draw what we can draw. And it means that for 2 hours in the family home, maybe that's a bit ambitious, an hour, maybe half an hour, and train the next generation, and that actually it's quiet time now, and it means that everyone can kind of calm down and center themselves and recalibrate. And if that becomes like a new norm in the household, whoever you are, then if you have got any, if you're living with others and you have noise sensitivity or you're recovering, at least then there's a time and a place where you can recharge, and others respect that and can have benefits from it too. So I think it's about taking control in a very lovely way to define quiet time, silent time, that it's almost like putting your mobile phone back on charge. You need to do that for you. And that actually is more important than anything else, because if you're not working, your battery's low, you're going to run out and you're going to overload and you're going to explode. So it's getting to know yourself and defining that time. And sometimes, I live really in silence all the time. I barely have music on. I love music, but not when I'm, working or in the home. That's just me. I just the way I'm wired. So it's finding and not thinking, oh, I'm weird, I don't like. It's just, no, that's who you are. That's how you function best. Support yourself, so make those choices to support you. And that might be a very individual choice, and, Quiet Mark products will help you create a peaceful home. If you need any help, we're here to support you in that journey as well, or find something specific for your needs.
Now might be a great time to ask you for the website. I'll have on your podcast profile too, but what is the website to go to, Poppy?
Oh, it's quietmark.com. And basically we're adding pretty much all the time new products that are being assessed in our acoustic labs in New York, in London, in Germany and Asia, all over the world. We're testing. Our teams of acousticians are analysing and testing and finding the quietest products. So we're on this mission for good.
Yeah.
we won't leave you with the noise, guys.
That sounds really like a beautiful mission to have in purpose, which we have talked about earlier. I love your passion too about all this. I have to include that word, passion. And you sound very passionate about what you do and how you came to do this.
Oh, I wasn't always like this. It happened when I was 30. I had this epiphany. From that moment, it was like I've got no off switch.
Yeah, it's almost like a reset, and some of us go through those moments and some don't, and I often wonder why some of us never get there, to shift, to realize this profound truth. But this is another episode, I guess. Well, how do you define success these days? What is to be successful?
Gosh, well, from what I'm learning, all the time, it's the quality of your relationships. seeking to forgive and to, again, press into things which are difficult to make sure a relationship is maintained, or, again, it's that love choice. And then sometimes the wisdom to know when to let go. So I would say that it's learning that dance really of knowing. I mean, I think a lot of people found that, when the world might be about to end, like during lockdown, we had no idea. It was just all about connecting to your loved ones and knowing that you're all together and you love each other and you're there for each other. I think that's pretty much the top of the tree, and just putting those dear ones above everything else, which is often very difficult with demanding lives,
Beautifully said too. Another beautiful message. The law of choice. I love that. I never heard it that way.
It's a very difficult choice. You're like, I'm not going to be.
All right, you're the one that loves certain
to me. No, I'm never going to forget. Yeah.
But it goes back to that. Yeah, over and over again. I agree. My last question is, what 3 experiences you wish everyone to have before they lose the body, before they die?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's interesting. I've just, my father's just passed away recently, and when you lose one of your parents, you get very close. You're very close to your mortality, and I think from that experience, I was able to bring a brother to actually make peace with his father just before he died, and I think that is one of the biggest things that we can do, is to forgive and make peace with people that have, caused us a lot of difficulty, or it's difficult to know how to connect with them again. Just that, I think that has a resonance in eternity we maybe don't understand here, but certainly it feels right when you do it and encourage it. Oh my goodness, I've got 2 other ones. Oh goodness. You've got one life, haven't you? You've got one go, and hence wanting to listen for the instructions, You're like, you don't want to get it wrong. And so I suppose, well, that's what I think anyway. I'm like, please help me to be the best person I can be, I'm just sharing my prayers here.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't think I'm anything great, honestly. It's just my childish. So in terms of, things before you go, just ask every day to be the best person you can be. That's I think, it's not easy. And what's number 3? Have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just go and really make sure you're having a lot of, if it's not fun, and I don't mean like, dangerous, strange fun. I mean, like, if you're not having a good giggle and laughter and, in your work or in your, whatever you're doing, or I think that's the place of even if you're doing something really tough, I think it's just finding that that place that allows you to be that free and complete and released. And that's an eternal quest as well. So there you go.
Wow. I mean, you leave me speechless, because I say the same things pretty much all the time when I hear wisdom from the heart. It's just, I can't help it but say the same thing. I listen to a lot of people, and I don't think we can hide those truths in our hearts. And you have expressed them today beautifully. And to me, it's what I live for. So thank you so much for being this amazing human being who have found profound truth.
Wow.
Beautiful. And clearly express them, communicate these truths. Thank you.
Life's not easy. I mean, it's blooming tough. It's not easy. And it's often, it's just through the trials you go through, like, oh man, this again. And, it's through that actually that creates, if you surrender, it creates the beauty, doesn't it? So it's kind of, it wasn't meant to be easy.
The human system, it's just so complex. It couldn't be easy to know how to operate it.
Exactly. It's like going down the gym and not pulling any weights. You've got to pull the weights to get fit, and I think the same thing spiritually, you've got to, sometimes things are tough because, you're learning to get a spiritual six-pack.
Yeah, that sounds great too. I love how creative you are too. Yeah, that's very creative. The things you say too, they're fun. You're a lot of fun too. Meaningful, spiritually practical fun. Thank you so much, Poppy, for your presence here today. And we'll talk soon. We'll meet again.
I look forward to that. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Take good care of your beautiful self. Bye
you
for now.
You too, and everyone listening.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Poppy Szkiler and her work, please visit quietmark.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.